Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special roundtable discussion here. The table's not so round, but it's a virtual roundtable here on Fight and Focus ahead of the upcoming Impact Wrestling Rebellion pay-per-view event. I'm Josh Shernoff, and I am joined by three incredible minds here in the wrestling business. We're going to start with the first one. He is the host of Foundation Radio and the newer host, been there a little while now, of the Mind of the Meanie podcast. He replaced this other guy, this Josh Shernoff character. He's fantastic. We're happy to have him here. Adam Barnard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Real Dad. It's a pleasure to see you again. Hopefully you'll come home soon.
Yeah, that's a little meat for the base, as they say there, a little inside baseball. But we also have joining us from FaceTime with Candace Cordelia. Now I'm kind of introducing you just by saying that, but also she's a contributor to Pro Wrestling Illustrated and Busted Open Radio. You can hear on there about once a month or so. Candace Cordelia, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Josh, for having me.
Oh, no,
I have no inside jokes for you.
That's fine.
I should have sent them to you earlier. Sorry, that was my fault.
So also joining us here, you all know him on Fight and Focus. This is not his first time here, and we are so happy to have him back. From the Miami Herald, no gimmicks needed whatsoever. Please welcome Jim Varsallone. Jim, thanks so much for being here.
Happy Rebellion, everybody. Thank you for having me again. Let's get this show on the road, Mr. Josh.
Oh, it's going to be a very happy Rebellion. And of course, it comes to you Saturday night, April 23rd, live on Fight. So let's talk a little bit about, it looks like kicking things off on their YouTube channel, but we should talk about it as well, because you never know. These things could get moved around. We've got an X Division Championship triple threat match. Ace Austin, Trey Miguel, and Speedball Mike Bailey. Of course, Trey Miguel is the current X Division champion. Speedball Mike Bailey, that is a guy who anybody who watched Fight Fest, which is of course available now, you can get the bundle here on Fight, but watched any of Fight Fest or the GCW Collective over the WrestleMania weekend, the WrestleCon weekend, you saw Speedball Mike Bailey, I feel like every single show, maybe like 2 matches per event. It was a lot, and I was just consistently impressed with him. If nothing else, how he was able to still move by the time he got to his last match. So, Adam, we'll start with you. This match, I mean, X Division, man, when you think Impact Wrestling, going all the way back to thinking TNA, the X Division to me always just jumps out. So what are you most looking forward to? Who do you have in this match? Tell us a little bit about it.
So, I mean, honestly, I'm really excited about Speedball, Mike Bailey. I think everything I've seen of him so far is fantastic. I think he's got a long future ahead of him, and I think anything he does is going to be absolutely incredible. Trey Miguel, though, I mean, the guy's held the title for about 170 days. I don't see him dropping it anytime soon. I think it's going to be a quick victory for him. Ace Austin is also an incredible talent, but I think for me, my money is on Trey Miguel at this point.
All right, Candace, do you second that, or do you have a difference of opinion?
You know, I have a slightly different opinion. I don't know, or rather think that this is going to be quite easy for Trey Miguel. You know, you have Ace Austin, who was a 2-time former X Division champ. And just like both of you have iterated, you know, Speedball Mike Bailey, fantastic. He hasn't been in Impact for that long, but he's certainly, no pun intended, made an impact so far with the work that he's put out in such a short span of time. So while I do believe that Trey Miguel will retain, I just don't think it's going to be as easy as people may think, because he has some pretty heavy hitting competition in both Ace and Speedball.
Jim, where do you land with this?
I think it's interesting, first of all, because you mentioned that it's going to be on the YouTube channel, and it's interesting to me because the match itself, it always seems like that X Division match is the kickoff match, the one to get things started, because you want that excitement, that build up, fans get interested. What strikes me interesting about this whole match, both of your guests spoke very well about the talents, but what interests me is the order. They're putting this on the YouTube channel. I'm thinking that they're trying to get everybody interested. Those that may be on the fence, hey, let's get the X Division match on the YouTube channel. Let everybody watch it. So that way, hey, now we're going to bring them in and get them to order the Rebellion pay-per-view if they haven't already. So I'm interested to see, because usually your first match on the pay-per-view show is your big highlight, action-packed X Division type match. But unless they change it, they're putting it on YouTube channels. So it says a lot in trying to attract that audience to it. And it'll be another great match. All three competitors are very good. Their work in the ring, this type of match, it's going to be an outstanding matchup. But I am very curious to see if this stays on the YouTube channel, which I think it will, or if it's actually going to be the first match of the pay-per-view.
No, and that is very interesting, because to the live crowd, this kicks off the event, right? So that sets the tone and the pace for the excitement of the live crowd. But you make a great point that as how it affects the viewers, and I agree with you. I think this is probably placed on YouTube where it's free, where you have the ability to hook somebody who just says, well, let me tune in, it's free, let me just see, I want to see how it looks, how many people are in attendance, what's going on, and then you watch the match, you go, okay, I'm in the mood now, I'm pumped for wrestling, let's order it. And this day and age, they might be watching it on their tablet or watching it on their computer or watching it on their smart TV or even just on their phone, and they can go immediately from YouTube to the FITE app and they can order this. So it's that easy that now it is interesting. It's different than maybe how things used to be with just standard pay-per-view, where now it is relatively easy to say, hey, whatever you're watching YouTube on nowadays, you can watch FITE on as well. So it's going to be easy to transition. But I think that's, look, it obviously could fall anywhere on the card in quality. So I'm interested to see what happens with it. But another match, Jonah, who is a relative newcomer, been there a couple months at this point at Impact Wrestling, but Jonah will be facing the New Japan Pro Wrestling legend, Tomohiro Ishii. Again, we're seeing something that we've seen a lot with Impact Wrestling. Everybody talks about that forbidden door or whatever, but we're seeing talent from multiple places being able to interact here. So Jonah, a guy who's stepping into Impact Wrestling, trying to still really solidify himself and make a name for himself, is now going to go up and try and knock off one of the toughest, most legendary people in New Japan Pro Wrestling in Tomohiro Ishii. So Adam, where do you fall with this? What do you think we're going to see? Can Jonah pull this out, or is Ishii going to just eat him alive?
You know, Josh, I've been thinking about this a lot. To quote the great Big E, this is definitely going to be two big, meaty men smacking meat.
That's what we're here for.
That's literally what we're all watching. We don't need that. Yep. We're just big men with big chests bumping meat. And that's really what we're all here to watch. But I'm really excited about this match. Jonah has repeatedly proven himself, at least to me, that this guy is capable, he's willing, and he's a monster. Is a animal in the ring, and I'm not sure he's really faced anybody like Ishii yet, but I'm really excited to see what happens here. It's a really difficult call for me, but I think the right choice for me is going to be Jonah. I think he's on a warpath right now, and I think anybody that's going to get in his way is going to get stopped pretty brutally. But I'm excited to see the destruction on this one.
So now, one thing I need to know from everybody is, because you said Ishii, and I have always...
Did I mispronounce it?
I don't know. That's the thing. I have always pronounced his name with like Ishii, like with I put a little extra, because there's so many I's in there that I put a little extra I in the sound. So Candace, we're going to go to you. How do you pronounce his name, and what do you think is going to happen when Tomohiro and Jonah face each other?
On that note, I do believe it's pronounced Ishii, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's just using my muscle memory on that.
All right.
But I also do agree with Adam, and I had to think a lot about this one too, especially last night. My first inclination was to say, okay, Ishii is going to take this. It's Ishii, legend. But Jonah is no one to overlook. I mean, he faced PCO. PCO is not an easy competitor, and he won.
Right.
So if he can defeat PCO, I'm pretty sure that he has a high chance of defeating Ishii. Will it be easy? Not at all, because the man is the man that we know today, in terms of his legendary status, the amount of championship titles that he's had in the past and still holds. But I can't count Jonah out. And I do believe, just looking at past pay-per-views from Impact, you always go towards, okay, this is an easy one. I think I know who's going to win. And at some point within a lot of different matches, they always pull that swerve. And I think that swerve is going to happen with this match. And I don't believe it's going to be an Ishii is going to win and then just go about his way. I think Jonah's going to take this and really shock a lot of people and really get folks pumped up to see what more he can do and impact as time goes on.
Interesting. Jim, how do you feel about this match? These are two, as Adam had put it, these are two big men. What are you looking forward to in it, and who do you see walking out victorious?
Well, first of all, if I don't know how to say the person's name, I'll go with initials or just the first name only. I've learned that. That's just years of experience, and then everyone thinks you know what you're talking about. Hey, why do I have to call him by his whole name? I just call him by one name. Hey, that Pritchard guy. Wow, yeah, look at the match he's had. There he goes. So that's just a little lesson for everybody out there and all. But now to go to the match, I think Jonah, look, he's in Impact Wrestling. He's their talent.
Sure.
You got to put Jonah over. You got to make sure that he's the guy that gets that. In my opinion, he gets the nod. Here's someone coming over from another big organization. What good does it do to have him win? I think it benefits more Impact Wrestling and obviously Jonah to have Jonah win and come out with this big, huge win and then be like, whoa, look what Jonah's able to do. We got to keep our eye on Jonah and just see where it goes from here.
Oh, no, you make a great point. It definitely, if I'm Impact Wrestling, I want Jonah winning. I want him getting the W on this one. Because, yeah, exactly. He's who we're left with. I mean, I guess we don't know, Ishii might be around to stay for a while. But no, I think you make a great point with that. Another match that we have on here is for the Knockouts World Championship. Knockouts World Champion Tasha Steelz against Rosemary. Man, this is going to be a knockdown drag out between these two knockouts. Rosemary, of course, former Knockouts champion. So I'm very curious to see what happens. Adam, what is your take on this? Tasha Steelz really been taking care of business since winning the championship, but you have to also think about Decay being there as well and what that's going to do. Not to take anything away from there's Savannah Evans as well on Tasha Steelz's side. So there's a lot here. What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know, man. Again, this is another hard one to call for me. I mean, Tasha Steelz is an incredible champion. She's been on a hell of a run so far, but Decay is just, I don't know. I just have a bad feeling about it. I think Decay is going to be lurking around any corner that they could possibly come into with this. And I'm sure there's going to be maybe some shenanigans here. I would put my money on Rosemary though. Being a former champion, I think she can take it. And I think she's going to be the one on this one.
Interesting. Candace, what are your thoughts?
I have to disagree. I think Tasha Steelz is going to retain this. However, it's going to be extremely fascinating for both of the points that Adam and yourself brought up in terms of Decay. And then we have Savannah Evans in the mix. And one thing that I noticed during Multiverse of Matches, there was a moment when we had Tasha staring face to face with Rosemary and they were just staring at each other. And then all of a sudden, Tasha taps Savannah in to do the dirty work for her. So there seems to be some sort of trepidation. I don't think Tasha is going into this completely confident, even though she comes off extremely confident in all other forms. I mean, she went up against Mickie James. She's a confident wrestler. However, with this, I do think there is some form of fear, and she could very well just be kind of, just playing it off for her fans. But I don't think she's going into this 100% sure that she's going to be Rosemary. I do think she will, but there's going to be some sort of action between Decay and Tasha and Savannah Evans. I just predict this happening, and it's going to foretell a really exciting and fun match overall.
Jim, what's your feeling on this? Tasha Steelz, I mentioned before, really has come into her own, came into her own before becoming Knockouts champion, but really has been carrying that with a lot of confidence, as she should. What's your feeling on this match?
Yeah, Tasha is one of the young talents in our industry who is just really come on, winning tag team championships in Impact Wrestling and now taking the big prize. And let's not forget the Knockouts division long before has had great talent. really elevating the women before a lot of others have. I go back to the shimmer and shine on the sort of indie circuit for women's wrestling, and then Impact Wrestling. And Tasha falls along in those lines. I think with her going against Rosemary, as you all mentioned, a former champion, what experience that gives Tasha to get in there with someone like that. And I just see that this is a good stepping stone, so to speak, for Tasha, because they're putting a lot on Tasha as a young champion, and she needs to keep elevating herself and keep elevating. I don't foresee the title coming off her this soon. I think it'll be down the road, and it will be against someone who maybe has not held the title before, unlike a Rosemary. But Rosemary will give her a tremendous effort because she's been a champion before. She's going to give a really good effort, and Tasha's going to learn a lot from this match against Rosemary and all the ancillary parts going on outside the ring. But I do think Tasha is a favorite to retain, just for the fact I really think that Impact Wrestling still has not gotten the most out of Tasha as a champion right now.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. I agree with all of you and your takes on this. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying about Rosemary being a stepping stone. You know, every great championship reign, it only becomes great because of who you've beaten along the way, not who you won the title from. It's who you beat along the way throughout that reign. So Rosemary would be a great person for her to knock off quickly to start establishing herself as a legitimate knockouts champion here. Another match we have, talking about champions, the Ring of Honor champion, Jonathan Gresham, against Eddie Edwards here. Now, this goes back to the whole Team Impact and Honor No More. Gresham, he's back for revenge here. But, of course, Eddie Edwards got a long-time Impact wrestler. He is a former champion. He is absolutely no slouch. So, Jonathan Gresham, do you think, Adam, he's biting off more than he can chew, or do you think he's flying high now, Ring of Honor champion? Is he coming in here? I mean, because what does that do for Eddie Edwards as well? Not only could you win this match, fight off this guy who's, trying his best to get his revenge on you, but you also in the meantime managed to defeat the newly crowned undisputed Ring of Honor world champion in this new Ring of Honor that we've yet to even figure out what that's all about and what that means. So, Adam, what do you think?
I think it's multi-layered. I agree with, I don't really know if anybody knows what the new Ring of Honor is going to look like at this point. I think it was a great position to put Jonathan Gresham in order to maybe reestablish this title in a new promotion or in several new promotions. I think you alluded to it earlier with this idea of the forbidden door. I mean, wrestling fans right now are getting probably the best of the best with everything, all these different promotions and different people working together. I don't know if I necessarily believe that Eddie Edwards is the guy to take the title off of him. I know that, there's been some, Honor No More things that have been involved in this. And, Edwards has some issues with both Impact and Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a really dynamic story to tell here, both in and out of the ring. But I really believe that Jonathan Gresham is the one to hold this title right now and continue this reign and kind of move forward.
So I should say, to my knowledge, this is a non-title match. This is not for the
Ring it is a non-title match.
No.
I see.
And it is deceiving, obviously, all promotional pictures and whatnot. He's standing there, Gresham is, with the Ring of Honor championship. So I don't think this is a matter of him winning a championship, but I mean, you're Tony Khan sitting back figuring out what to do with the next stage of Ring of Honor, and you're Eddie Edwards who's sitting here in Impact Wrestling, and maybe you're not getting that opportunity that you would like to be at the very top like you've been before with Impact, and now you're almost looking at a way, kind of a roundabout of like, well, hey, maybe there's something with this new Ring of Honor. Maybe if I can show that I can defeat the Ring of Honor champion, well, I've kind of just at least earned myself one match at a future event, for Ring of Honor. So that's what I'm kind of curious with. But you make a great point with it, Jonathan Gresham. I mean, he is on a roll, probably the best he's ever been right now. So that's tough. Candace, what is your thought on this match?
Right. It's really all about the storyline for me as well. And it is interesting because they're not competing for a title, but I agree with you. There's the whole Gresham having the undisputed Ring of Honor World Championship title, even though it's not on the line.
Yep.
For Edwards to defeat Gresham would still be a feat amongst itself, because I believe Gresham is the best that he's ever been. He's at the peak of his career, and he is only going to go further. There's no telling where this will go in terms of the storyline of this whole Honor No More versus Team Impact. But that's the part to me that's really meaty, because there's all these different feuds brewing within Impact, and Rebellion is really going to push these feuds forward. And should Edwards win, it's going to be phenomenal, because you're going up against Jonathan Gresham. He's at the top of his game, and he's doing the best that he's ever been right now. But then it goes towards, where does this lead to? And I think that would be really intriguing, because we're going to start seeing, at least I predict, all of these Team Impact, Honor No More, all of these little feuds going here and there and going off. And that's what really excites me. So I do predict Gresham to win, but I kind of want Edwards to take it, just for my selfish, reasons of wanting to see where the storylines will go within this whole Honor No More versus Team Impact thing happening.
And Jim, what are your thoughts on this?
This is all about revenge. Gresham getting his revenge for the attack, and then also Eddie Edwards just turning his back on Impact Wrestling and what he did there. So now Jonathan Gresham will be the flag bearer. And it's so interesting, because you look at AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, it's all working together, like you were saying about the Forbidden Door. And Jonathan Gresham is leading that Forbidden Door charge coming over. Here's what really interests me about this at the end of all of this at Rebellion. Will Alicia Edwards and Jordynne Grace be involved? Will the ladies come out and defend their men in this match? And that's something that's in the back of my mind that I'm looking forward to seeing, because it's not all been rosy with Alicia and Eddie. But Jordynne and Jonathan are on the same page. But love always takes over, number one. So we'll see what happens at the end of this one. I'm hoping the ladies get involved. I hope they don't determine the outcome, but I hope they get involved at the end of the match afterwards.
That's interesting. I hadn't actually even thought about that, but yeah, I also would hope to see them involved in some way afterwards, not in the match itself. I'd like to see how the match plays out. But yeah, that's interesting. That could happen. That absolutely could happen. So here's a match. You talk about forbidden doors and people and legendary people. So we've got a triple threat match here. Chris Sabin, who to me is one of the pillars. I mean, he's hands down pillar of the X division, but one of the people that first got me into TNA back in the day was Chris Sabin, of course, Alex Shelley, the Motor City Machine Guns. They played such a large role in my fandom back then. Well, Chris Sabin is here, but now he's going up against Jay White, arguably one of the best in the world today, and a guy who is just a machine and a half, Steve Macklin. So we have Jay White versus Steve Macklin versus Chris Sabin. Man, Adam, what's your guess here? Because I feel like between the three, you have to just guess, right?
Honestly, that's probably the best thing I'm going to be able to do at this point between this. This is a really heavy card. When I think about Impact and when I think about TNA, I think about Chris Sabin. That's one of the names that pops into my head immediately. Jay White, obviously an incredible performer. Steve Macklin is unbelievable. Let's not forget that Chris Sabin handed Jay White his very first loss inside of Impact.
Yes.
And I think that's a really important, because initially my gut is to always go with Jay White, right? Like, he's just an incredible performer. He's fantastic in everything he does, but Chris Sabin did get that victory. So it's hard to call. I wouldn't be surprised to see Steve Macklin pull it out and just, put one over on both of them. But I would say it's anybody's guess at this point. If you ask me for my opinion right now at this point, I think with the win that Chris Sabin just got over Jay White, I'm going to go with Chris Sabin on this one.
Interesting. Candace, what do you think?
That is very interesting, because I'm the complete opposite. For me, and there's so much in terms of betrayal and revenge here. I think Steve Macklin is just not really. He doesn't really have a lot of skin in this game. I think he's going to go out first because the real meat of the story is really all about Chris Sabin versus Jay White, that whole feud with, Motor City as well as the Bullet Club, right? So I think it's going to boil down to those two guys, Sabin and Jay White. But I actually think that Jay White is going to win because I foresee Alex Shelley getting in the mix here. There has to be something that's really going to go down during this that's just going to shock a lot of people. And I really can see that feud really boiling over because Steve Macklin, as great as he is, I don't really think, there's not going to be too much more for him in this particular storyline. I really want to see it go down to Chris Sabin and Jay White. And I honestly 100% believe Jay White's actually going to win this as his form of payback. And we're going to see something here with Alex Shelley. That's just my prediction on this one.
No, that's a very interesting prediction. To me, I think there's also that possibility of Jay White and Chris Sabin absolutely being the focal point here. And Steve Macklin being able to sit back while these two tear each other apart and be able to walk out victorious and move on to his next thing while these two continue to fight it out. Jim, what are your thoughts on this triple threat match?
It's all about the whites. It's all about the whites.
I didn't bring props. I should have brought props today.
Jay White. He's already lost to Sabin. You can't have Jay White lose again. The way I think about Macklin is Macklin, the way he wins is, as you said, Josh, them beating each other up, meaning White and Sabin. And then Macklin comes in and pins Sabin, not White. Not White. White's already got a loss here, so I'd be very surprised if he gets another, even no matter who it is. So, but I just think that this is Jay White's match to win, and we'll see how it plays out. But I also think it's interesting because I'm wondering, this would be the match I would say to start the show with. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned before, if you have that X Division match opening the show on the YouTube channel, then you're really having back-to-back matches with this style of match. And I don't know if it's a good idea to put those type of matches back-to-back because they're going to be action, explosion, several competitors. So I'm wondering where they're going to start this match if the other match opens YouTube. So I'll be interested to see that part of it as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. But again, so many of these matches, I think every single match on this card could really be anywhere for the most part on the card. That's how stacked it is. This next one, though, another championship match. This time it's the AAA Arena del Reyes Championship, which is held by Diana Perazzo, the Virtuosa. Diana, she had an open challenge at Multiverse of Matches, which, of course, is available now as part of the Fight Fest WrestleCon bundle, but also individually at FITE.tv. Go now. But after her successful defense of that title at Multiverse of Matches, Taya Valkyrie returns to Impact Wrestling, made her presence felt, let it be known exactly where she was and what she was looking to do. And now she's got this match at Rebellion. Taya Valkyrie versus Diana Perazzo for the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing very American. But what is your take on this? I'm a big fan of both of these women, both incredible and unique athletes. Adam, what's your take on both of them in this match?
I think I'm going to echo a lot of the sentiments here as far as building champions and building the storyline and the succession to the next step. Because for me, all roads for Diana Perazzo lead to Tasha Steelz and the Knockouts Championship, right? Mm-hmm. That's where I believe that this is going to go. And that's why I think where her storyline is going, I think that's where the arc is going to be. And I think it's going to be the champ. Mm. I think Taya Valkyrie is someone that, much like you, the panelists talked about with Rosemary being the person who could elevate Diana Perazzo. I think that's where it's going to go. I think it's going to be a hell of a match. I think Taya's got a lot to prove coming back, but I don't see them taking the belt off of her this quickly. But I think I'm going to go with Diana Perazzo on this one.
Now, Candace, Diana is also Ring of Honor Women's Champion, I guess interim Ring of Honor Women's Champion. So Adam mentioned, all roads lead to that Knockouts championship, but you have to imagine it's still so up in the air. We have no idea what Ring of Honor is going to be, if it's going to be anything more than just championships being defended on various shows. But I mean, you have to imagine all roads are going to lead to eventually that, right? For Deonna Purrazzo trying to become the Ring of Honor, the undisputed Ring of Honor women's champion. So that might be a lot on her mind as well. And then again, we run into the same thing with Taya Valkyrie that we had with Eddie Edwards, where if you want to come back, make a splash, make a name for yourself, reestablish, she's already made a name for herself, of course, but reestablish your name, what better way than to not only take a championship, the AAA championship, but to also in doing so defeat the interim Ring of Honor women's champion. So I think there's a lot there. What is your take on this match? Where do you see this going?
You're right. There's so much going on. I do want to point out, because I wasn't even aware of this, because you mentioned interim. It seems as though Deonna, is the lineal champion and Mercedes Martinez is the interim. So
okay, I apologize. Yeah. Yes, I said that backwards. Okay.
That's fine. Absolutely, that's fine, because a lot of people are confused about that. And I noted that recently Deonna did talk about this with Gia Miller, and she was really passionate. Like, she was revved up, and she stated, I am the champion, whether it's interlineal, this is my championship title, and no one's taking this away from me. You also have to know, Taya is a 3-time former, knockouts woman champion. So at this point in time, she is really just focused, and she's like, I'm taking back what's mine. She's been gone for about, a little over a year. And it's funny because I interviewed Deonna for Pro Wrestling Illustrated last month, and we talked about this. And I mentioned, Taya is the number 1 contender for the Reina de Reinas championship title. What are your thoughts about this? And she straight up said, this is my championship title. I don't even know who my contender is going to be for Rebellion. But if she wants to take that title, she's more than welcome to try. But she said, this is my championship. It's not going anywhere. I'm keeping it with me. And I agree with Adam. I feel like at some point there's going to be a champ challenge, because she also mentioned to me that, her next focus after she retains this championship title is going for Tasha Steele's, title. So there's so much happening, and I love Taya Valkyrie. I really do. I love Deonna Purrazzo, but I think that title is staying with Deonna. It's going to be a crazy good match, top to bottom, but I think Deonna's she's going to win. That's just the way I see it, and I think, just like Adam stated, she's going next for Tasha's championship title. So it's going to be wonderful. I can't wait for this one.
All right, Jim, is this going to be a hat trick, or or do you differ in your opinion? Do you have a prop for this one as well?
More props.
Of course I do, Josh. You mentioned hat trick. I'm changing hats, just like we're going to be changing titles here on this one, because I am going with Taya. I hate to say that, because Deonna's one of my favorites of all time. But Taya, as was noted, is a former AAA women's champion. Arriba! I'm not going to say the name. I always say, if I can't pronounce the pronunciation of the title in my Spanish, I always just go with Arriba. So
I just try it and butcher it.
And she has that lineage to her credit. And I really believe that this could be, I believe that Taya's coming back, wins this title. She has the pomp and circumstance of Mexico and lucha wrestling on her side. This would be great for her to go back to that country as the champion and have some bouts there and do something if they're doing the crossover. And it would just be, so I'm really looking forward to this match. And you mentioned Mercedes Martinez. What an incredible talent, very physical. And having her in this whole mix with Ring of Honor and just what's going to happen there, I think Deonna's focus is going to be more toward Ring of Honor and what's going to happen there. So I wouldn't be not surprised at all to see Taya walk away with the title here. It would be fun to see Deonna with all the belts and become the collector of belts again and do that. I really think that would be just very interesting to see that. But I'm going with the hat change. I'm going with the title change. I'm going with Taya with this one, and we'll see what happens.
All right, very interesting. And then, of course, it all culminates in our main event. We talk a lot about championships. We have Josh Alexander challenging Impact World Champion Moose for the Impact World Championship. Now, we should note, Josh Alexander, former Impact World Champion of a couple of minutes, because he defeated Christian Cage, no slouch there, defeated Christian Cage to become the new Impact World Champion. But moments after that, Moose, he called his shot, and he defeated Josh Alexander, became world champion once again. So, man, Josh Alexander going into this with a chip on his shoulder. Of course, he was sent home by Scott D'Amore. We now know that he signed a multi-year deal. He is back. And I would imagine part of that deal was, hey, I'll sign this, but you're giving me my rematch. Moose is on a whole other level than he's ever been in his entire career at this point. So, Adam, it's the main event. Let's. What do you think? Are we going to see, is Josh Alexander going to walk out Impact champion, or is Moose leaving Poughkeepsie as the Impact champ?
This is another hard one to call for me. Again, it's a lot more big meaty men slapping meat. This has given me a lot of the build to this. Reminds me a lot of the Alex Hammerstone Fatu build that happened last year in MLW. It's very robust. There's a lot of moving parts in this, and it feels like it's got a big fight feel to this. I think Moose is on an incredible run, but I do think Josh Alexander is ripe for the taking at this point. I think he's frustrated that he lost the title in a couple of minutes. I know I would be. I think it was 7 minutes, if I recall correctly, he had that title for. I would be incredibly frustrated if I were him. The build is going to be crazy. The payoff is going to be great. I would guess to say that I would think Josh Alexander is going to take this title. I think all that frustration, all the build to this with the multi-year extension, after being sent home, coming back in this rematch, and then Moose showing up at his house. I think this is... that would piss me off. If that were me, that's personal. Yeah, if that were me, that's next level. So I think Josh has got a lot on his plate here, and I think all those frustrations are going to come out in the ring, and I think Josh is going to take this one.
Candace, Adam mentioned all the frustrations that Josh Alexander has. Do you think that those frustrations might be too much for him? That it might distract him from being as laser focused as we've seen him in the past?
Oh, not at all. I feel as though that's going to be the catalyst to take Moose out at Rebellion. And he's such a fan favorite. I personally loved Josh Alexander to the moon. He's always been laser focused in his matches, in my opinion. And even if, it's gotten very personal, just like Adam stated, Moose showing up at the house and the way that Alexander lost that title. You're celebrating with your family, and then here comes Moose cashing in and taking that glorious moment away from you. All of this has built up for this exact moment. And to see Josh Alexander not win this title, I would be devastated for him. I really think this is his moment. I think Moose is the ultimate competitor for him. I think the storyline has been built so perfectly and so beautifully that at this point, all of that frustration it's going to come out in this match, and it's going to be just wondrous to watch. So I'm rooting for Josh Alexander to take this, and sorry, Moose, but I think that Josh is going to really just give us a show. Both of those gentlemen, they're just going to give us one crazy show to end this whole pay-per-view.
Jim Varsallone, at the risk of you breaking out like moose antlers or something, who do you think? Do you agree, Josh Alexander, or do you think that Moose is going to retain the championship?
This is Josh, the main event. And you're going to have a battle like no other. These two guys can bring it. Josh is the walking weapon. We're going to see a lot of blood and guts in this one. These two are just going to beat the heck out of each other. It's going to get the crowd going nuts. Here's what I'm looking for, Josh. If Josh Alexander's wife and son are in attendance, Josh wins. If they're not there, Moose retains the title because of what happened the last time, as was mentioned, with his family there. His wife and son are in the ring, and Moose beats the heck out of him and wins the title.
Yeah.
The phone is ringing off the hook, Josh, because they're all in Poughkeepsie and everywhere wanting to see this great battle. There it is. So, but I really think that if the family's there, that we're going to have a big Josh Alexander celebration like we should have had. But if they're not there, then I'm thinking, this is going to be Moose's night.
Well, I mean, I guess it remains to be seen at this point, but what a great point you made there. It remains to be seen. But one thing that does not remain to be seen is whether or not this is a stacked card worth your time. I think we've, if anything, we have clearly established that this is a card you do not want to miss. Rebellion, Impact Wrestling Rebellion, comes to you live Saturday, April 23rd, right here on FITE. I want to thank my three guests here, Adam Barnard, Candace Cordelia, and of course, the ever-changing hat-wearing Jim Varsallone. Thank you all so much, and thank you for joining us here on Fight and Focus. I'm Josh Shernoff, and we will see you April 23rd right here on FITE.